Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. We're looking at one of the most fascinating phenomena I've ever run across from a religious perspective, and it's Jerusalem syndrome. So let's get started. Thanks for being here. Do check out our other videos. And I just ran across this doing some research. We'll just read about it a little bit here on Wikipedia. I think you'll find it interesting too. And so it says Jerusalem syndrome is a group of mental phenomena involving the presence of religiously themed ideas or experiences that are triggered by a visit to the city of Jerusalem. Now it's got a picture here of a guy that looks suspiciously like medieval pictures of Jesus, man claiming to be Messiah in Tel Aviv, 2010. And so it's not endemic to one single religion or denomination, but has affected Jews, Christians, and Muslims of many different backgrounds. It's not listed as a recognized condition in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders and International Classification of Diseases. The best known, although not most prevalent, manifestation of Jerusalem syndrome, classified as type 3, is the phenomenon whereby a person who seems previously balanced and devoid of any signs of psychopathology becomes psychotic after arriving in Jerusalem. Now, it is, about a half mile above sea level, somewhere around there. I don't think that's what causes it. The psychosis is characterized by an intense religious theme and typically resolves to full recovery within a few weeks or after being removed from the area. The religious focus of Jerusalem syndrome distinguishes it from other phenomena such as Stendhalm syndrome in Florence or Paris syndrome in Paris, which I'd never heard of those either. In the 2000 article in British Journal of Psychiatry, Bar L. et al. Claimed to have identified and described a specific syndrome which emerges in tourists with no previous abnormal psychiatric history. And so this claim has been disputed. They further noted that a small proportion of tourists alleged to have exhibited spontaneous psychosis after arrival in Jerusalem had presented no evidence that the tourists had been well prior to their arrival in the city. So here's the history of this. Jerusalem syndrome has previously been regarded as a form of hysteria. It was first clinically described in the 1930s by Jerusalem psychiatrist Heinz Hermann, one of the founders of modern psychiatric research in Israel. Whether or not these behaviors specifically arise from visiting Jerusalem is debated, or similar behaviors have been noted in other places, such as Mecca and Rome. It is known that cases of the syndrome had already been observed during the Middle Ages, since it was described in the itinerary of Felix Fabry and the biography of Marjorie Kemp. Other cases were described in the vast literature of visitors to Jerusalem during the 19th century. So, large numbers of otherwise normal visitors might be affected by a combination of their presence in Jerusalem and the religious significance of the millennium, developing a massive increase in the numbers of Jerusalem syndrome admissions to a hospital. This is looking forward to the year 2000. Despite a slight increase in tourist hospitalizations with the rise of total tourism to Jerusalem during the year 2000, the feared epidemic of Jerusalem syndrome never materialized. So, let's go through some of these types. Jerusalem syndrome type 1 is imposed on a previous psychotic illness. And so, for example, affected persons may believe themselves to be important historical or religious figures, or may be influenced by important religious concepts, such as causing the coming of the Messiah or the second coming of Christ. A type 2 is doesn't necessarily take the form of mental illness, may simply be a culturally anomalous obsession with the significance of Jerusalem. And type 3 is a discrete form uncompounded by previous mental illnesses. And so Bar L reported 42 such cases over a period of 13 years, but in no case were they able actually to confirm the condition was temporary. And so here's some of the prevalent statistics. During a period of 13 years, 1980 to 1993, for which admissions to the Kfar Shaul Mental Health Center in Jerusalem were analyzed, it was reported that 1,200 tourists with severe Jerusalem-themed mental problems were referred to this clinic. So, to me, that's a lot. In 13 years, 1,200, it's about almost 100 a year. Of these, 470 were admitted to the hospital. On average, 100 such tourists have been seen annually, 40 of them requiring admission to the hospital. But now there are about 3.5 million tourist visits to Jerusalem every year. So that the proportion of the total number of tourists visiting the city, this is not significantly different from any other city. So, and then it's got some cultural significations where it's presented in various Simpsons episodes, the X-Files, and on and so forth. So I just thought that was so strange, and with the coming, it seems, Revelation, it seems like Moses and Elijah, I know there's a dispute about that, it's going to be coming. Wonder if they'll be accused of having Jerusalem syndrome or something. So, we're looking for heavenly Jerusalem. So God bless you. You can get that where you're at. You don't have to be in Jerusalem. In Jesus' name. We'll talk with you later. Bye-bye.